What? No shit. I've never seen this music video.
Looks like she's gonna fall over.
Crazy.
Tracy D. What does the D stand for?
Oh, my terrible surname.
Yeah.
It's very long and very Greek.
Can we change it for the podcast?
Demetrio.
Oh, that's not long.
It's long. Try to spell it.
No.
No one can spell it, so it's just D.
Demetrio?
It's easier that way. Yeah.
How about Dynamite?
Sure. I'll take that.
Tracy Dynamite.
Yeah, why not?
Because everyone has to have a tat name.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
A tatter's name.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Tracy, I don't know, help me.
Let's go Dynamite.
Danger, how about that?
Yeah, sure, I like Danger.
Tracy Danger.
Yeah, I can work with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to put some color.
Flashing red light.
We'll shave one side of the head. I like that look. I do it on both sides.
Yeah, it works.
And naturally it's on the top.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for coming over and having dinner.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been fun working with you.
Yeah, it's been great.
And last night we had a pretty good painting session at the shop.
My head is like...
I love it.
Super good.
It's funny, I knew, like, when I asked you this morning, it was like, did you actually get to sleep or not? Because that was the same thing with me. Like, we'll paint all night.
Yeah.
Get home around 1:32, and then I just stare at the ceiling because I'm just like thinking of new things and brainstorming. But I love that. It's
great. I think it's so great that you guys do that like consistently. Because I was saying to someone earlier, when I paint, I normally just sit at home and do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been in an environment where you'll sit and do it with people.
Right.
So I guess it's the same as tattooing. Like when you're in a group environment, you can just bounce ideas off each other and give suggestions, and then something so simple is suddenly so just obvious to you.
Yeah, I tend to rely on it a lot now, like with tattooing.
Yeah.
Because like I can brainstorm about color schemes, and then for somebody else, they just say the first thing that comes to their mind. And they don't have any emotional attachment to
it,
which makes it even better.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it has to be the perfect color, the perfect combination. You're working at Valerie and Stuart's shop, and do you guys have that
all the time?
Yeah.
I think how I felt last night about painting is how I feel almost on a daily basis at the shop, because either Stuart or Valerie will make one tiny little comment on something that I've drawn or tattooing, and it'll just blow my world, and I'll just be like, how did you see that just so quickly?
Right.
But yeah, it's especially the first, I think, 6 months I was working there, my head felt like it was going to explode the whole time. And it's so great to be in that environment, because I haven't really had that. Like, they're so focused on helping you grow, and that's what they really genuinely want, is just to see you grow and progress and develop and surpass whatever you thought you could do. So they push you the whole time. And I think I respond really well to that. Like it kind of drives me more than just kind of doing it on your own and not having someone's input the whole time. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's good to have that pressure.
Yeah.
Just because if you're around people who feel like they haven't made it yet, or as far as like gotten to the height or peak of their abilities, then you feel like you can keep going and keep learning. And I like that kind of atmosphere to kind of be fostered in that, because it's like, I'm better than I was a year ago, but I can definitely push it further and definitely tighten up things.
But they do that with themselves even. Like they bounce off each other so well, and it's just so great to see, because both of them in their own complete separate tattoo worlds, I think they both push themselves so hard and so far, and just know that they can go beyond. Like Valerie just blows it out the water. Like every week you think, that's it, like how could she be any better? And then the next week she just does this back piece or the sleeve that you just can't even fathom. Like it's just mental. And the same with Shirt. Like they just push themselves further every time. And to be around that motivates you so much, because you just think like you can't just sit still. You've got to like push yourself. so it's just continuously moving. Yeah.
Do you find for you, like, you're constantly pushing and trying to improve, but do you ever get kind of hung up in some of the frustrations?
All the time.
Yeah.
So. Especially me, because I think I tend to think about things way too much. So if Stuart will make a comment about something, I'll just sit on that comment and ponder it the whole time. And then I can't, like, I almost dig myself into a hole and I just can't get out of it. And then he'll say something else and I'll just be like, oh, yeah, it's that simple to, you know, why was I so stressed about or so frustrated about something that is so easy to change? It's just really about changing your mindset and how you look at things, I guess. Yeah.
I find that's a big thing. Like, I mean, you can be at any kind of level, but it's all about that mindset. And I always have to remind myself it's not always about the results. It's the
journey as well.
Yeah. So if I get frustrated or annoyed, I always have to bring it back and be like, oh, we're going to make it fun, because you can learn and push yourself and it can still be fun.
Absolutely.
But when you're like beating yourself, like, oh, why did I do that? Or I should have done this. And I mean, if you really step back at the whole grand picture.
I think that's it. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to step back and actually take, deep breath and either reassess or, for a few days not think about it and come back to it, and then your head's a little clearer and you can see it a bit differently. Yeah.
I remember we were talking earlier, I think you do something very similar to me, where when you're learning something or studying something, you just limit yourself to just drawing that over and over again.
All the time. Yeah.
And I love that. I think in the beginning, the idea sounds like it's going to be a lot of work, but I get a lot of fun out of it, because each one I draw of whatever subject matter is.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm just drawing a bunch of Hanyas, because for some reason I have to tattoo a few. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to draw Hanyas for this month.
Yeah.
So any free moment is just doing that. And you were saying like flowers.
Yeah. And I think I just wanted to set a little challenge, and the first maybe 3 days I was like, oh, this is gonna be difficult to do for 30 days. But the more I get into it, the more I'm just completely obsessed with it, and that's all I want to do. I just want to draw flowers the whole time, like over and over again. But I think you kind of get almost into like a rhythm of it, and it starts to feel more natural. And I think that's probably the most joyous part of this process that I'm doing at the moment. It's just like I feel, it's become so easy, and it just, I don't know, there's just something that's kind of clicked.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I like that point where, for me, I have to look at other people's artwork, and I have to look at, maybe there's like a sculpture or some sort of source reference, and then I'll just draw that. I wouldn't use it for a tattoo or anything, but just to get my mind in that place, or wrap my head around how to proceed with dissecting it. Yeah. And then after I've done that a while, then I start to take it more of where my own hand wants to naturally take it.
That was actually something I've always remembered when even before I was actually tattooing. Lindsay Carmichael said to me, if you want to learn how to draw dragons, go and get a piece of tracing paper, find a book of Ed Hardy dragons or whatever dragons you want to learn how to draw, trace them over and over and over again, and then your hand will just kind of find that natural movement. And eventually you've drawn them so many times from tracing something that it becomes a little more natural, and then you can start, drawing it on your own, and then eventually it just becomes your own. But I think it's the hard part is actually putting in the work. Because we all want to be able to draw like this, but if you really want to be able to draw something, you have to actually draw it over and over and over again. And I think sometimes you just get a little bit lazy and you think, oh, I should be able to draw that, but you can't. And then you get frustrated, but it's because you haven't actually practiced,
Exactly.
And I think we're all guilty of being a bit lazy sometimes.
Yeah. But there's only so many hours in the day as well.
Of course, yeah.
But the funny thing, for like a lot of tattoo artists, I believe, you're asked to do so many different styles, different subject matters, that literally there's no time in the day. And then you look at some painters in the 1800s, and all they do is paint trees, and trees next to a lake, and then there's a mountain. So like they're staple. But for tattooers,
you have to be a jack of all trades kind of thing.
Until you maybe make it to that point where like
you're only doing custom stuff.
Only what you're interested in doing. And that's like the carrot, I think, for most tattooers.
Absolutely, like
being able to reach that point.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a lot of what goes through my mind is like how other people work. And because I just want to get better. And
absolutely. I think that's what everyone, everyone wants to just progress. Yeah.
So I was looking at a lot of your work, and I think for a lot of like the girl heads, it's very difficult to get the right proportions.
Yeah.
And like, is that something that came natural for you, like the proportions of the features, or is it something you've had to work at as well? Kind of like the same method we were talking about.
I think it comes from what influences you, because for me, I think I find a lot of the same root material that a lot of other female tattooers or people who love lady heads do, and that's Renaissance, Pre-Raphaelite, all those different art movements. So for me, that's something I absolutely love. I'm obsessed with Pre-Raphaelite movement. Like, I've read all the history books, everything, and those their whole motto was beauty for beauty's sake. So they would draw women being the number one most beautiful thing for them, actually from an Italian painter. But I think a lot of the women that they used to paint were they weren't as masculine looking, I guess, and they had quite strong noses, strong jawlines, but long flowing wavy hair. So I think for me, I take a lot of reference from that and have just kind of tried to figure out my own way of doing it.
I like looking at a lot of sculpture for lady heads. One of my favorite would be Canova. The proportions are beautiful, but he's, like you said, that strong nose, and that's like very Greek in a way. Like a lot of those Greek sculptures were influencing a lot of that drawing, and even a lot of Indian sculpture. I've seen a few that have that beautiful proportion and symmetry.
But I think also with lady heads, I think it's picking a feature that you find beautiful. Some people, like for me, I love a slightly crooked nose, or drawing the eyes just slightly bigger than what you would have in real life. Because I think it really comes down to what you find beautiful in a woman's face. Some people draw small mouth, smaller nose, bigger eyes. So I think it just depends what influences what you like. Yeah.
And it must be nice having Valerie there.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely incredible. She just draws them on with a Sharpie, and I can't do that.
No.
Yeah, it just, you look at it and go, that's incredible. And then you'll see her start tattooing it, and how that came out of her head. She did a little gap filler, one of her customers' legs, a little Sharpie, black and grey, and it was phenomenal. Yeah. So, having her there, I think she's always been one of the most influential tattooers for lady heads for me, and how I guess that's why I followed her work mostly a lot of the time. And actually, she's done my arm with 3 lady heads on it. She just brings this really romantic quality to her work, and just so beautiful. But to be around that is, again, like every time she does a lady head, she blows it out the water, and it's different every time. It's not like she's doing the same thing over and over again. She'll do the hair differently, or the eyes, or the eyebrows, or the mouth, or the nose, and every time it just looks insane. And I don't know how she does it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely a talent.
Yeah.
But you weren't always working at Modern Classic?
No, I've only been there for a year and a half now.
And you were saying you lived in Switzerland for a while. Yeah,
I was there for 2 years. It was a really good time for me, because I think I was tattooing before in London again, and I think I just kind of got to a bit of a brick wall. I wasn't very happy in London itself, and then tattooing, all I was doing is working. I just kind of didn't enjoy tattooing as much as I think I knew I should. So an opportunity came up for me to move to Switzerland, and I took it, and it's the best thing I've ever done, because Switzerland's a country very much based on a work-life balance. They're very heavily work maybe 45% and have a life of 55%. And it's very strong kind of thing there.
Sounds very un-American to me.
Yes. very, very foreign to me as well. But it's just so great to see, you know, like on a Sunday in Zurich, everything's closed. You can't do anything on a Sunday because everyone takes a day off. And I know that's a very like old tradition, but being in London where everything was accessible 24 hours a day, you could get anything, you get everything first, you know, anything you want, you can click your fingers and you can get it. And then moving to Switzerland, which is not part of the EU, into a very small city for me, where you can hardly get anything that you think you want or you need. So it was just taking a bit of a step back and realizing that work is work, but living is living as well. You've got to remember to have both of them. I had 2 wonderful years of learning how to balance my life again. And I think that was like the main lesson for me, is just learning how to balance my mind and then my body. Like I got really big into like hiking and being outdoors, fell in love with cooking and food, learned about nutrition. And then I think that's really important as a tattooer, because so often you forget to exercise or eat well, and you're sitting all day and you're working with your, you know, bent over, and you don't always tend to think about your body. You think about what you have in your head and you want to put it down on someone's skin. So you kind of sometimes forget that you're a person too, and, you know, your body needs certain things. And if you want to have a career like this for a long time, you need to really look after yourself. So I think that was this great lesson that I learned, and now I'm back in London after that, and I really make sure to keep that as a staple in my life, is to, you know, have my work, but then also have a life. We all at the shop, we only work 4 days, and then we each have 3 days off. 2 days off, the shop's closed, and then we each get like an extra day off. And that's so great, because you can have 2 days of drawing and prepping, and 1 day, Sunday generally for everyone, where you just see your friends and you're a normal person and you have like normal working hours, and you really have to think about just living, doing other things that you love.
Now, when you were in Switzerland, were there other things going on? Like, were you like overworking at the time that kind of helped you realize?
No, I was hardly working when I first got there, because I didn't have a client base. So I started from scratch, which I don't think I even thought about when I was just like, yeah, I'll move to Switzerland. And I think I was doing maybe 1 tattoo if I was lucky, but I could pay my bills and my rent, you know, like I wasn't going to die. So then eventually 2 tattoos, 3, 4, the conventions, worked really hard at it. But in the downtime when I wasn't tattooing, I was drawing and painting, but then I found other things that really sparked joy inside me, and being outdoors, the main thing. And that's the most accessible thing in Switzerland. Like, you have the mountains, the lakes, the rivers, everything at your doorstep or half an hour away. So I think I started getting outside more, and then realizing, oh, actually, I love this, and I love tattooing, and that's okay. You know, I think before I used to think I could only have one love, and it had to be tattooing. Otherwise I wasn't good enough, or, you know, I wasn't a true tattooer. But actually, there's so many other things that I absolutely love and make me so happy. And I can have both, or I can have more than one thing that I love. Yeah,
I think I'm trapped in that other mindset right now, where it's like, it's pretty much mostly tattooing.
But I think you go through phases as well, because sometimes it should be like that, and you should be really focused on what you're doing. Especially, you know, when I moved back to London, I knew this is learning time again. It's like going back to university, and you're in school again, you're there, you've adapted your mindset to, this is the time to learn and progress and move forward, and really like focus on that. And that's my time for me now, is that. Whereas my time in Switzerland was learning to be outside again, and other things. Right. So I think it's just, you kind of go through phases in your life, and it's just being aware of where you're at and checking yourself. And if you're at a point where tattooing is just too much, not too much of your life, but you feel, well, I don't know, it's too much sometimes, then it's just reassessing that and thinking, okay, I need to maybe find another outlet or exercise or something.
So in London, what has been an outlet for you now is like physically while you're there, because you don't have mountains.
Oh no, it's so difficult for me. I started rock climbing, bouldering and climbing. So that was kind of, for me, something that I could learn to do in a city, but one day use it outdoors. So it's something that I'll be able to keep with me forever. So climbing, big, huge thing. And actually just recently now, when I get into kayaking, because I live 2-minute walk from the Thames, the water's right there. I love being in the water. I grew up surfing. Yeah. So I just thought, why have I not thought about being on the water? You know, there's hardly anyone on there. You can wake up in the morning, go for a paddle. My dog will come with me. So that's the next thing on the list. And I go to gym. But I think trying to find outdoor kind of things to do for me to keep me motivated. And I also go back to Switzerland every 3 months to work. And then when I'm there, I do a cheeky little hike somewhere, and that, you know, kind of keeps me grounded and just being a little bit outside.
Right. Yeah, we usually take walks on the beach, and
Amazing.
then we have a forest here, and I forget all about it. Yeah. And it's really close. Yeah. It's ridiculously close, and I never go.
You should.
I know, but we went for just a small walk yesterday, and I was like, oh, yeah, so peaceful now. Yeah. Because, you know, you're not worried about what's going on back in town. But I think my mindset is crazy. Once I get obsessed about something, then everything else is cut out. Yeah. Until I get obsessed about something else. Yeah. But I mean, the same thing. I could get obsessed with working out and all the same, everything you say, but I just don't, I don't know how to find the balance.
Yeah. It's difficult for everyone, I think. I think a lot of tattooers are all or nothing kind of people. Most, at least that gives you the drive to tattoo, you know, because you have to be all in. But it is hard. It's super hard trying to find a balance with anything in life. Work, play.
I remember wishing there was times where I didn't love tattooing, so I could just leave my work at home. Like, because when I think
everyone does. Everyone does. Everyone's got that in their heads when you see your friends going home at 5 o'clock or going to the pub or whatever, and you're like, oh, I've got 7 hours of drawing to do when I get home tonight, and I want to think about this, and, you know. But no one else does. They just go home or they have their weekends and they don't think anything about work.
Right.
But then at the same time, as much as sometimes you really want that, most of the time you just think, I fucking love my job. And how many people can love their job as much as we do and have all the opportunity and the travel and the meeting of new people every day? No, I kind of feel sorry for people sometimes that have 9 to 5s. Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it.
I wouldn't trade it.
It's only when I'm stressed out.
Yeah, but I think everyone thinks that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And you are originally from South Africa. And you were talking about surfing. And it was funny, the story you were telling me about battling sharks.
Well, I haven't battled a shark yet.
Yeah, but you have. But don't be modest.
It's very normal there. When I was at home in January, there was shark sirens they have in Muizenberg, where I go surfing, and they've got shark watchers on the mountains. And if they see a shark come into the bay, they radio down to the lifeguards, and they put a siren on. Everybody's got to evacuate, put up a different flag, and you got to stay out the water until they tell you to.
Wow. And that's like a common thing.
Yeah, normal. But it's really funny because, I mean, I've never really had a fear of the water. I grew up swimming. My mom had us swimming since we were like teeny tiny. And then I tried surfing in high school, and after school I was surfing. And I've only very few times been out in the water and thought, oh yeah, there's a lot underneath me that I don't know about. Or you feel something brush against your leg and you shit your pants. I think a couple of years ago when I was surfing in Muizenberg, I managed to convince my sister to come in the water with me, and not even thigh deep. And I was like, okay, I'm going to push you on the next wave, just paddle and then try and stand up. I think I still had the board in my hands. I was standing next to her, and the sirens went off, and she was paddling like a crazy person going, there's a fucking shark, get out. And I'm still holding the board, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to push you. You'll be out in a second. And then I just stood there going, is this for real? Kind of looking around. I was like, yeah, people are getting out. I'm going to get out. But for me, like, I don't have that fear. I know you're in the water where the sharks live, but it's for everyone. You know, everyone can use it. Just be nice, be nice to everyone. Don't get in each other's way. Kind of how I see life. Just be nice, and, the sharks won't pet you, hopefully.
Yeah. So, you pet the sharks. Nice shark. I mean, no harm. Don't eat me.
Yeah, but although saying that as well, like when I was in high school, there was a bodyboarder that was, I think he was a year below me, and he got his leg bitten off below the knee from a shark. There was a shark attack 2 beaches down from our local beach. But again, that is an area where it's predominantly shark area.
Wow.
And there's a lot of documentaries that you can see on Discovery. That's all literally where I grew up. All the river mouths, or, you know, that whole 120 kilometer stretch is just shark heaven. Right. But they do have shark nets now. So
they can't pass through.
Yeah. Most of the time. I think it was in the 1950s, there was a thing called Black December, and that's before they actually had shark nets.
Okay.
So people would swim out, and there was just a spate of shark attacks. I don't know. They were just killing people. And I think after that happened, they got nets from Australia, and they kind of implemented shark nets. I think after that, there weren't as many fatal shark attacks, but I mean, it still happens.
Right.
And a lot of surfers and bodyboarders, you don't always surf where there's nets because it's not always the best place for surfing.
Sure.
They put nets on swimming beaches, so you don't always get good waves there. So most of the time, it's your own risk.
Wow, crazy. I remember I went out not scuba diving, but snorkeling in Florida. And we went right along the reef. And there was this huge drop off. So I was underwater. I was doing okay. But the water changed, like they got a lot colder, a lot darker. And then out of the corner of your eye, you see like fish and
shadows.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I cannot stay in here. I don't know how anybody finds this relaxing.
Well, funny you say that, because I spent a couple of years there when I was younger, and we went snorkeling, I think in the Keys. I went off a little bit by myself, and I saw a big shadow underneath. And I was like, oh, that's a big fish. Not really thinking much of it, and did a few circles, went back to the boat, and I said to the guy, there's a really big fish down there. And he's like, oh yeah, it's a nurse shark just kind of circling around you. They're fine. They're not like aggressive or anything. And I was just like, didn't bother me at all, you know, because I think I'm so used to coming from a place where you've got like great whites and tiger sharks. Man. Florida's got sharks too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I don't know what kind of shark they were, but I was at my friend's property, and his family has a place right on the beach. We're just in swimming, and then you just see 2 long, dark fish. Yeah. And then we get out of the water, and you can see the dorsal fin. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. I like ponds. You know, ponds I can deal with that.
But it kind of gives a little bit of excitement to life, especially with the unknown. Like for me, that's always something that is such a fun part of life. You never know anything in life, really. Right. And if you want to go exploring something, you don't really know what's out there, but that's what's exciting. It's the same with the ocean. You don't know what's underneath there most of the time, but it's exciting. Why would you not want to venture out there and not meet a shark, but you know, just go and see what's out there and have fun? But that's just me. I think I just really enjoy not really knowing what's next.
Yeah, it's the road less traveled.
Yeah.
It's a good point to make. Not all the best things are mapped out.
Exactly. I mean, I've been in so many places hiking where you don't always follow a map, and you stumble upon the most beautiful parts that you'll ever see, but you never knew that they were there, or you weren't looking for them. But just because you were outside looking for something, you found something. I think it's like that with life sometimes. You don't necessarily always have to be looking for something, but just being open to what's out there, and then good things come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that goes, I think, back to what we were talking about, that mindset. You could take the same idea of that same approach to tattooing, but just living life in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know in my past, if I'm ever like constrained, deflecting my situation, then I'm never going to be able to change the situation. It's only when I'm open for it.
Yeah.
It's not the best route to live someone else's life in a way. Or like you see where somebody's at and you're like, oh, okay, if I just follow that trail. But it's not your own personal trail.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think it's also good to have good people around you who, if you ever get stuck in a rut, they'll just be like, hey, change this and you'll be fine. You know, or just tell you to, I mean, for me, like a lot of the time, sure, it will be find your own way. Find your source material that you really love and make it your own, but find your own way. Don't look at other tattooers. Don't look at other tattoos. Just try and find what you love and put that into your work. And it's really hard these days. I think with social media and Instagram, you're forever seeing stuff online that even if you're not purposely looking at it and studying it, it's imprinted in your head because it's an image. And so sometimes I find when I'm drawing, I'll think, oh, shit, I had this great idea. But actually it wasn't my idea. It was a flash of an image that I saw of somebody else's idea. And I think that's really challenging these days because, you know, it's trying to find something original, and nothing is really that original, but it's just trying to make things your own and not follow someone else's path or the way that they're tattooing. You got to find something for yourself.
Yeah.
But that's not easy.
But do you think it'd be good to go to many different sources? So if you're working in a specific style, purposely look in the opposite direction and see how that influences you, or maybe even just, I mean, a lot of the stuff I like is to read, and I get really inspired when I'm reading, but I don't always have the time to translate that inspiration into an image as well. So it's that balancing act of
absolutely
like keeping up with the commercial work and then
trying to find your own
newer. Yeah. But it's good. I like hearing it from you as well, because it's like it's always the same thing that goes through my head of, am I the only person struggling with that, or is there more people have the same idea? And then the same people having those issues, and then coming out on the other side of it and seeing what original things that they come up with. It's fascinating. If you're a painter or a writer or whatever, it's all the same.
It's trying to be creative, and I think every creative person has that struggle of wanting to be original or wanting to stand out somehow, wanting to prove to people. I think it's more to prove to yourself that you can have something of your own or for yourself and make something with that, rather than being heavily influenced by certain things. But yeah, that's not easy. Yeah.
Well, when you find out, let's talk about it. I'd like to find out where I could find you on the internet, on Instagram. Where are you most likely to be found?
Where am I meant to be found? Well, Tracy D Tattoos or under Modern Classic.
And that's on Instagram?
Yes, both of them, Or Modern Classic Tattooing website.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's just the four of us that work there.
Right.
Yeah. And all our merchandise.
Yeah.
Like our cool Tiger t-shirt that I was wearing yesterday.
I was going to steal it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed working with you, and I look forward to the next couple more days.
Absolutely, yeah.
And hopefully you'll come back.
I hope so too, yeah. It's been one of the nicest places I've been. It's been amazing.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I hope Valerie and Stuart will let you come back.
I hope so too.
But it's great. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, and, thank you for having me.
Super good to meet someone new and grounded and down to earth. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.